All right, Wilson, let's get the week started. 6:27 on this Columbus Day, 42 degrees downtown. Here is a look at first news. Fair, accurate, you get the damn truth. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu examining a plan to seal off aid into Gaza to starve out the remaining Hamas terrorists. If implemented, it could make things a little easier. Get the citizens out, leave the terrorists in. The plan proposed by Netanyahu by a group of retired generals would then escalate pressure on them to either leave, surrender, or fight. Vice President Kamala Harris is losing the black vote. So now she's announced a series of proposals that would give black men more economic opportunities. Her plan includes providing a forgivable loan for entrepreneurs or apprenticeships or any other black men that want to get into business. Just give them a loan, like the student loan folks. Just give them money and forget about it. She said the plan's meant to energize African-American males. The vice president unveiled the plan today ahead of a rally in Erie, Pennsylvania. Now, we don't know how it would be paid for, how they would pick the men who get the free money, but she's going to toss that out today. Devastation of Hurricanes Helene and Milton being tallied as it comes with damage. Longtime Floridians have grown accustomed to a cycle of storms that can shatter and upend lives in the state. Some say the price of living in paradise is worth it. Joe Biden got there yesterday. He will survey the hurricane damage. Crews continue to reconnect electricity in those storm-stricken communities. Lines for gasoline considerably shorter now. More stations are opening up. As of last night, there were only 1 million people now throughout that region who were without power. They've restored power in about 5 days to 2 million people down in Florida. DeSantis had them ready to go. Also now more tanker trucks making into the gas stations, so people now have fuel, can get back to their homes and start the cleanup in Florida. Only 500,000 were left without electricity as of last night. That's down from the 3 million on Wednesday. That's pretty good. 2.5 million power restorations in about 4 days, folks, for a hurricane-ravaged area. With weak leadership, we have to sleep with one eye open. The world's a mess right now. Middle East, Ukraine, down in Africa. China's on the move. Taiwan's defense ministry said China used 125 military aircraft in an exercise aimed at Taiwan over the weekend. 90, including warplanes, drones, all spotted within Taiwan's air defense zone. China's launching now large-scale military exercises aimed as a warning against Taiwanese independence. Authorities said a Nevada man with a shotgun, handgun, fake passports arrested at a checkpoint outside of a Donald Trump rally Saturday in Southern California desert. Riverside County Sheriff's Department said the suspect was 49-year-old Las Vegas resident driving an unregistered vehicle with a homemade license plate. The man was stopped by deputies that were assigned to the rally there. The man was arrested. Officials said the incident did not impact the safety of the former president or the thousands that were attending his rally. The latest method of voting to fall into political crosshairs is the way now that overseas voters cast their ballots, including members of our military. The process is governed by a federal law implemented by states. Republicans have been challenging how some of these states, though, handle these voters, position themselves in challenges. Election officials in 3 states are being targeted, Michigan, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, because they have strict procedures to ensure about these voters casting ballots. They also note that overseas ballots have already been sent out, but if they're not there on time, those states seem not to count them or tend to throw them out. This is the first of many issues. In 2020, states sent more than 1.2 million ballots to our military men and women overseas. 900,000 were returned. 890,000 of those were counted out of the 1.2 million ballots. The Nobel Memorial Prize in Economics has been awarded to Darren Asemglo and Simon Johnson and James Robinson. Research in the reasons why some countries succeed and others fail. They got a prize for that. They each get $1 million for that, Mark. Yep. Announcement was made Monday. They work at MIT. One works at research at the University of Chicago. SpaceX has pulled off the boldest test flight yet of their enormous Starship rocket. Elon Musk's company caught the returning booster back at a Texas launch pad with a mechanical arm Sunday after liftoff. Towering almost 400 feet tall, the empty Starship blasted off in Texas, arced over the Gulf of Mexico, like the 4 Starships before it that ended up being destroyed. The latest demonstration successfully brought the first stage booster back to land 7 minutes after its liftoff. The launch tower has monstrous metal arms. It caught that descending 232-foot booster. The spacecraft at launch splashed into the Indian Ocean precisely as they had planned. There is a massive NASA spacecraft that is ready to set sail for Jupiter and their moon. The craft is named the Europa Clipper. It will peer beneath the moon's icy crust to determine whether conditions there could support life. Scientists are pretty sure there is a vast hidden ocean there, making their moon one of the best bets for finding life beyond Earth. Due to launch this month from Florida, that Clipper won't search for life yet. Instead, it will look for ingredients necessary for life. It's going to take 5.5 years for that spaceship to get there, all the way to the moon in Jupiter. Zambia is having a drought. They're having some electricity blackouts caused by severe drought in the region, insufficient water to run their hydroelectric turbines. Months of drought exacerbated by some hot temperatures means the water's so low in one of their man-made lakes that only 6 turbines can run. Kariba is the largest man-made lake in the world by volume. It lies on a border between Zambia and Zimbabwe. Down in Brazil, Friday, they started blocking 2,000 gambling websites. Part of a push by the government in Brazil to regulate gambling, they have seen a huge rise in gambling addicts in Brazil, especially vulnerable people. They authorized online betting in 2018, but lack of regulation raised concern. Psychiatrists reported an increase in gambling addiction there, while banks have noted a rise in related expenses. They said Brazilians wager about $3.5 billion each month in Brazil. $3.5 billion. On the medical front, since October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, a new U.S. rule requires mammogram centers to inform women about their breast density. The information isn't entirely new for some women because states already had some requirements. Dense breasts can make it harder to spot cancer on a mammogram. The best advice for a woman with dense breast is to discuss it with her doctor, the pros and cons, and additional screening methods. Researchers are studying now better ways to try to detect cancer in women that have dense breasts. So far, there's not enough evidence for a broad recommendation, though, for any additional screening. Boeing was in the news. They've announced layoffs. The giant aircraft maker said Friday they're going to lay off 10% of all their workers. That's 17,000 people in the coming months. Why? Strike. Going to lay them off. Cripple production right now. They're holding out. The company has 170,000 employees worldwide. Many of them work at the manufacturer facilities in Washington, obviously, in South Carolina. These would be temporary furloughs, and they are further delaying the rollout of the new plane, the 777X, to 2026 now instead of 2025. Boeing has lost more than $25 billion since 2019. But 33,000 of their workers have been on strike. They offered them a raise of over 30%, more benefits, but the workers turned it down, and so Boeing is now laying off workers. U.S. stocks were up on Friday, led by banks, J.P. Morgan, Chase, Wells Fargo, other big companies. The S&P 500 up 0.6. Dow was up 0.1 of a percentage point. NASDAQ fell over the weekend on Friday. Tesla brought that down as they unveiled their robo-taxi to the public on Friday. Oil prices been hovering around that $75 to $77 mark here because of the tensions in the Middle East. A Montana business owner and supporter of President Trump was sentenced to 2 years in prison for the January 6th break-in at the Capitol. Hank Munzer of Dillon was sentenced, arrested 2 weeks after a social media post showed his video and him getting into the Capitol. He was found guilty in February. He spent about 38 minutes there. Prosecutors said he was involved in a physical confrontation with a Capitol Rotunda employee, and so he will get 2 years in a federal prison. Firefighters continue to battle the fires around us, although the skies cleared up a little bit over the weekend because of the winds, but they're still fighting. That elk fire down there in Wyoming by Sheridan has consumed more than 87,000 acres now. It was about 30% contained over the weekend. We may be getting some help here coming up Friday with some showers starting to move into the area. Although there's no official figures yet or estimates on how many pets have been left behind by their owners who leave Cuba, the number of abandoned cats and dogs down there has spiked so bad in 2 years that there are record numbers and they don't know what to do with them. They're getting calls from everyone about dogs and cats that are running through the areas down there. The animal shelters, they can't take any more of them, but people are leaving Cuba, trying to make their way into the United States, and they are leaving all of their pets behind. Won't take them. And a beloved boardwalk amusement park at the Jersey Shore is shutting down. Gillian's Wonderland Pier in Ocean City closed Sunday night after generations of anchoring the vacation spot for families from Philly to New York to Jersey. City's mayor said he tried his best to keep that park open, but determined the attraction his family ran for generations is no longer viable. It was owned by a hotel company. Ocean City has already rejected the plan by the company to put a big hotel nearby. That family's operated the amusement park, rides, and attractions there for over 94 years, but it's getting tough anymore, and they just can't make it. Labor's a problem. Finding people to work's a problem. Maintain all those rides and things like that. The property's current owner is Icona Resorts. They had proposed a $150 million luxury hotel there, but the city rejected all the plans. So the family was endangered defaulting on bank loans for the property, and then they had Superstorm Sandy back in 2012, so they had to put a lot of money into that. New Jersey's minimum wage doubled the amusement park's payroll cost, leaving them $4 million in debt. See, they don't care what those kind of things do to businesses, but when you fast food wages, at least they got to be at least $20 in California. Mm-hmm. And so they're replacing their employees with kiosks and touch screens and everything. And it took its effect on the amusement park on the Jersey Shore. So they are closing after almost 100 years. Cat Country News Time is 6:43. Sports and weather next.
In sports from the NFL yesterday, Chargers coach Jim Harbaugh had to leave in the first quarter. He has an atrial flutter in his heart, and that kicked up, made his heart beat faster than it was supposed to. And he went and got a little treatment back in the locker room, but came back out, finished coaching the game. And they went on. They looked pretty good yesterday. The Dallas Cowboys did not.
Wow. Warm stuff today, well above normal, about 80 degrees today. In fact, close to 80 or 80 the next 3 days, and possibly moisture then on Wednesday. You're going to have the furnace running at the end of the week, folks. And 49 for the high Friday, 53 on Thursday, 50% chance of rain. So Mark and I noticed a lot of female hearts fluttering Friday at our stop by. Mm-hmm. You can't help it.
I know.
They see you there, and that's it.
What about that group of gals at the end? It took 6 of them to buy boots together.
I know. I know. Downtown Billings right now, it's 42 out there. Mostly clear skies, actually. 6:45, that's what's happening. Days are getting shorter, folks. Don't forget, we change the clocks in a couple weeks, too. Can hardly wait for that. At least we gain an hour, Wilson.
Kip Moore, Beer Money, 6:48, time for Maybe It's Just Nashville. Our 36th president, Dwight David Eisenhower, born on this date, 1890. They liked him when he signed in Medicare and Medicaid. They did not like him so much with the Vietnam War. UCLA coach John Wooden, born 1910. Roger Moore, several of the James Bond movies. Singer Cliff Richard, still kicking at 84. Sammy Hagar turned 77 yesterday. Actor Harry Anderson, birthday today. 1912, Theodore Roosevelt shot while campaigning in Milwaukee. The wound in the chest was not serious, so he just continued with his speech. 1926, Winnie the Pooh, that book made its debut. 1944, German Field Marshal Erwin Rommel committed suicide rather than face execution after being accused of conspiring against Adolf Hitler and the execution that would follow. More than 200 high-ranking officials in the Nazi Party committed suicide. Folks, I work with a baseball guy so he can tell you which teams. 1984, Sparky Anderson became the first baseball manager to win 100 games and a World Series in both leagues. What teams?
Cincinnati and Detroit?
Yes. 1972, Michael Jackson's song Ben, which was about a love for his pet rat, hit number 1. This is the kind of stuff that I like to hear. Eric Church in 2006 was opening for Rascal Flatts at Madison Square Garden, and instead of doing one of his songs that's getting played on the radio, he did some Ozzy, Crazy Train. Then he stayed on stage past his allotted time. They fired him from the tour and replaced him with Taylor Swift. Come on, everybody, crazy! 1974, people in Nashville. The establishment was not happy that Olivia Newton-John won Female Vocalist of the Year, the CMAs. I talk all the time about there's an older act you want to see, catch them before they're done touring. It's on this date 6 years ago that Steppenwolf played their final show. I see now the Scorpions are celebrating 60 years of their music in Vegas. Remake of Footloose opened on this date, 2011. Had Blake Shelton re-singing the title song that Kenny Loggins had written. Don't know if it's true. Saw a thing where Carrie Underwood is supposedly getting $1 million per night when she sings the open for Sunday Night Football. Jelly Roll getting his own bar in Nashville called Jelly Roll's Goodnight Bar. Saturday was the anniversary of the plane crash that killed John Denver. Told you earlier this morning, Lacey J. Dalton playing in Cody this weekend, $15 to get in. Saturday is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony. They're putting Jimmy Buffett in when he should have been in years ago. He is going in under the Musical Excellence Award. Foreigner finally getting in. If you watch that NASCAR race like I did yesterday, you see that Chris Stapleton's Traveler Whiskey was a sponsor of the big race. And folks, this sounds like my partner. Brantley Gilbert's doing a show this weekend. Somebody comes in his earpiece and said, hey, your wife's having the baby. So he took a break from the concert, went out, helped deliver the baby, came back in, finished the show up.
Yep. Came in and said, hey, we got a baby.
That's right. Yeah, anything you want to hear.
Yeah, well.
And Kevin Costner's band has put out a song. Modern West has released Find Your Way, a pay-what-you-want song release that will benefit Hurricane Helene and Milton victims. Money goes to Force International, a disaster relief organization who are on the ground actively helping the areas devastated by these hurricanes. Seeing several celebrities that are pitching in. Dolly Parton pledged $2 million. Morgan Wallen, $500,000. Eric Church put out a song with all the proceeds from that song going to the region. And Miranda Lambert and her Foundation created a fundraiser aiming to help the animal shelters hit by the storm, and she made a personal donation of $100,000. So your celebrities chiming in.
Good.
That is all I got.
70 years ago, which, wow, it's 70 years old? 70 years ago on this date, Cecil B. DeMille started filming The Ten Commandments. There was a cast of 25,000. Now, this is the stuff you're going to get in seat 2C if you sit next to Wilson. One of the members of that cast was a young Herb Alpert, who played drums in the movie. Alpert said the scene was where Moses comes down the mountain with the Ten Commandments. It was supposed to open with Alpert's back to the camera. And he said to Mr. DeMille, do you mind if I open this scene on my face? And he told him, nope, not this time. So Alpert is now 89 and just released his 50th album called 50.
Sold 72 million records.
But now Mark knows about him being in the Ten Commandments.
There you go.
That's at least a 100 to 250 mile story right there in an airplane. Reba McEntire recorded the theme song for her new sitcom, Happy Place. She wrote it with Carole King. Inherits a bar, finds that her business partner is 20-something half-sister she never knew. And I am just not a fan of Reba's comedies and stuff.
Oh, God,
but
they are running promos to death on this thing.
I know it. And Coldplay picked up their 5th #1 album. Moon Music debuted at the top of the Billboard 200 albums chart, 120,000 units in its first week. Short and Sweet by Sabrina Carpenter is #2. Chapel Roan is third. Morgan Wallen's One Thing at a Time still maintains fourth place.
Wow.
On the albums chart. It's been there a long, long time. And that's about it, Wilson. That's all I have.
And again, maybe it's just Nashville, 656.